Parents, if you want your teen to get a top SAT score, do not make these four devastating mistakes. For those of you guys who don't know me yet, my name is Jared Wynn. I'm the founder and director of Geometry Guru's SAT Prep. And at this point in my career, I've helped hundreds of students increase their SAT scores so that they can go to their dream colleges or qualify for scholarships. With that being said, let's get straight into this video. The first mistake that I see parents make every single year is they have their teen take their first major SAT in March of their junior year, just because their school is doing it for free. That is one of the worst ideas you can have, and here's why. If that is your teen's first SAT attempt and they don't do well, guess what they're going to have to do? They have to do it before their senior year college applications, which means you only have really 3 more attempts before you actually can get the score that you're looking for. Now, those 3 attempts are not going to be put in the most ideal situations. For example, the May and the June exam, guess what happens if you have to take those exams? You have to balance that with APs, you have to balance that with finals, and all of a sudden you will have a recipe for disaster. Because guess what? The next possible test you can probably take is the August exam. And August is during all this summer craziness. Your teen has sports, your teen has extracurriculars, your teen has homework for their AP exams, right? For next year, right? The senior year AP exams. So all of a sudden, if you take your exam in March of your junior year, your window is really, really tight if they don't get the results that they want the first time around, because there's always going to be something else that's in the way. My students who are juniors right now, they're actually taking the exam in October or November. Why? Because you have the PSAT National Merit Scholarship around that time as well. So if you prep for that, you also prep for the SAT. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And even if they don't do well on that exam, guess what? They have another exam in that March that they can take as well. But because they have a test under their belt and they prepped properly the first time, they're not in that bad of a situation in comparison to the student who's taken the March one as their first ever attempt, okay? So don't do that. Second thing, blindly studying without knowing your teen's weaknesses. What so many parents do every single year is that they just throw their teen into some random class or some random test prep book, or they use Khan Academy, Blue Book, whatever, and they just go blindly studying and be like, yeah, sit there for 45 minutes and crack open the book. For most students, that is not enough structure and that is not enough accountability for them to get anywhere, because they don't actually know what their weaknesses are. So if they don't know what their weaknesses are, they're going to be like, what's the point of even doing this? I don't even know why I'm doing this. I'm just doing work for the sake of doing work. And guess what? Instead of getting any real productive time done, they're just going to be stagnant their entire prep cycle if they just do it like this, because they're not targeting anything specifically. What your teen really needs to do is that they need to do what we call here the efficiency index. The efficiency index is where we do a comprehensive diagnostic process on your teen in which they can figure out which of the 64 SAT concepts are actually costing them the points, right? That way, they're not just blindly studying. In reality, if your teen is scoring anywhere between a 1200 to a 1350, they're missing about 15 to 20 of those specific 64 concepts, which means they don't need to go deep and practice everything, because they would just be wasting a lot of time. A lot of your teens do sports, extracurriculars, music, whatever. They do not have time to just blindly go through all 64 concepts, just hoping and praying that they hit a weakness just by accident, okay? Now, the next thing that a lot of students do and a lot of parents do is that they just do a bunch of generic prep that is just way too easy for them. So even if they do figure out which of the 64 concepts they need the most help on, because they work with materials that are just too easy and not targeted to their specific skill level, they just are kind of dancing in one place, or they're just running in one spot because it's not actually moving the needle. Because if you just practice at a certain level forever, then you're never going to get better. It's just like if you go to the weight room or you try to do a sport, if you never try to put a little bit of extra weight on that barbell, you will never get stronger. You'll stay exactly where you're at forever. Because they're just using stuff that's in their comfort zone, they never actually get anywhere. And usually that's because there's just no one in their corner to really push them in that direction. So that's why it's so important not just to have a structure in which you're working on the things that you're struggling with. You need to have someone in your corner to actually force you along the path, all right? Now, the last mistake that I see that students do is they have no test date target. A lot of parents, I ask them, hey, well, when is little Jimmy going to be taking their SAT? And they say, oh, whenever they're ready, or whenever, their SAT practice exam gets to a certain point. That is a very dangerous way of saying we have no idea and we have no plan. Because if you're just relying on your team to just do all these things with no end in mind, then eventually they're just going to get tired, unmotivated, and they're not going to be working with a purpose. That's why, right, we always have a student take the test at a set time, right? It's like, you need to get this score by this date, or you need to take the test by this date. And guess what that does? That gives them an actual goal to hit. It gives them a window in which, like, hey, for this amount of weeks, I'm going to be locked in on one specific goal. They're much more motivated that way. So these are the most prevalent SAT mistakes that I see every single year. If you guys need help applying this to your team's situation, go ahead and send me an email or send me a DM. No obligations. I'll point you in the right direction. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.